Toss to White. He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl!
Welcome to Patriots Touchback Podcast.
Good evening, everybody. We are gathered here today for the post-mortem of the New England Patriots' frankly horrendous season. It's me, your boy Karl. I'm joined by Nick Cosgrove as always. Luke looks like he's unavailable tonight. And as for DJ, well, he's flying off to the States. So wish him all a safe flight. So it's just you and me tonight, mate. How you been?
I've been all right, thank you. I would have preferred if the Super Bowl hadn't gone the way it did, but hey, beggars can't be choosers.
No, we can't. Well, congratulations to Kansas City. And as for the rest of the NFL, well, we're absolutely screwed because now we have a modern day dynasty on everyone's hands. This is the post-mortem of our season. Before we get cracking with the show, make sure you smash the like button on the video. You hit the subscribe button while you're at it as well. Tell all your friends. We're on all the social media platforms and follow us on Spotify as well. Where do you want to start with how this season transpired? Because we came off the back of a pretty average season, to say the least. It weren't great. We struggled at times, finished 8 and 9. Like, right, okay, let's get an offensive coordinator in who could actually do a job. We got Bill O'Brien in, and I thought, okay, that's a positive step forward. Sadly, however, as the season progressed, the offense got progressively worse, and it just felt like we were pretty much going through the emotions the entirety of the season. And for me personally, it just felt like pulling teeth. I've never wanted to watch a team so less than I did the Patriots this season. It was just awful to watch on offense. The defense kept bailing us out on every given opportunity. Mac Jones regressed so much. Maybe that's due to having another third offensive coordinator, but it just looked like he wasn't the same guy who we drafted 3 years ago. What would you say about this all? Because it's been a mess this season.
No, I think touching on Mac, I think basically last year he was given an offense that was basically safety scissors and crayon, and told to, Matt Patricia basically, use some crayons and waterproof colors to draw some plays and then cut them out using safety scissors. He obviously wasn't trusted with the whole shebang. I'm going to go back to a question that was asked to Bill in pre-season. He stood there at the podium, and a journalist, and I don't have which journalist said it, so I can't give them the credit. Bill was asked, why should fans be positive going into this season given what we saw last season? And they asked, why should there be optimism this year? And Bill's response was, the last 25 years. How did that go down?
Like a lead balloon.
It wasn't very optimistic. I watched this season and I can't say we were full of optimism. I keep going back, I keep thinking about our trip to Germany, and at half time, me and you were like, oh God, what are we going to do? Oh, this is terrible. So, we're going over old ground, really. The NFL moved on and Bill didn't move with it, and unfortunately, that led to a demise across the whole board from the team. And while Bill could get away with keeping the defense strong, using his nous and whatever else, the offense just couldn't keep up, and it left us in the situation that we're in. I think the fact that we've cleaned house is probably a good thing. I know that Steve Belicheck has decided not to stay, and he's gone as DC at Washington college.
University or the Huskies, Washington Huskies, if you want to.
But even if he had stayed, obviously DeMarcus Covington had already got the DC job. Apparently, Steve was going to be Mayo's assistant head coach. So he wasn't going to be the DC. I know that Brian Belichick's staying, but the Patriots have needed this, and this is probably 2 years too late. That we needed an overhaul completely from top to bottom, and I know it was a bad year, but I can only look to the future and hope it's better.
Absolutely. Look, there's no such thing as the only way to go is up in this situation, but with 4-13, there is ways you can go down a lot more down this chasm, but it will take a horrendous collapse. And I just don't think, well, what everyone forgets, okay, 7 of those defeats that we had, they were all by one score. 7 or 8 of those games were all by one score. So it's not like the offense was a million miles away. It was just the fact it was just poor quarterback play. Receivers weren't getting open. Bar Damario Douglas, who was pretty much our only real bright spark that we had. Gesicki just didn't do enough for me. Hunter Henry didn't do enough for me this season. And the rest of the receiving core get in the bin. Juju, constantly injured this season. Waste of money. Devontae Parker, I don't trust the guy anymore. We could get a better ex-receiver at his position. Tyquan Thornton, bust. 2nd round pick. When we could have actually have got... I know a lot of people turned around and said that, oh yeah, but instead of it, you could have ended up getting George Pickens, who went to the Steelers. Bill Belichick would have drilled it into George Pickens of his attitude and probably would have kicked it out of him. But he's still a talented receiver. I would still have George Pickens. I don't care if you've got an attitude. It's what you do on the field that counts. And George Pickens is a very good receiver. So I would have had him over Thornton. But that ship sailed, just like every other receiver has sailed past us. The running game was out of sync. Stevenson tried to do what he did behind whatever the hell that offensive line was over the season. Ezekiel Elliott was a bright spark at running back. I thought he did really well when Stevenson went down. Would he return for another season? He'd probably want to be paid. I mean, you can find running back. You wouldn't have him back. I don't think I'll have him back either. I think you can get second or even third tier running backs for very, very cheap, or they may just be a signing with free agent, or just get someone in the draft. Maybe the 5th, 6th round Donovan Edwards is still on the ball for Michigan. You go take him instead. Just saying. But the way the season has gone about, it started off with a defeat to the Eagles. Not the worst. They had just come off a loss against the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. So you look at that and it's like, can we class that as a moral victory? Well, Keishon Butte kept his feet in bounds. Then who knows what might have happened on that final drive. But we'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, we watched that game at a launch party, didn't we? Me and you were in Birmingham for a launch party, and that feels like ages ago.
It feels like another dimension, yeah.
I remember us sitting there, and we were saying, and I think either you said to me or I said to you, I can't remember which way it was. We were talking about how the Patriots were in the game and they were making it hard for the Eagles, and the Eagles weren't walking over us, and we were there, and it was a 1-score game, and then it stretched to I think 10, and we got it back to 7, and then I think it went up to 10 again, and the Patriots were in and around the game, and it was one bad decision here, and and I came away from that game and I said, I'm sure I said to you that if the Patriots play like that every game, we will win more than we lose. Because both sides of the ball did play well. I mean, you were playing the Super Bowl runners-up. So, I didn't expect to win that game, but we saw a good effort. And that was like, you know what? We might see something this year. And it just went downhill from there. That was the highlight.
That was the highlight, yeah. It's just absolute nuisance because, like, okay, we've lost. It's not the be all end all. Let's bounce back and let's go up against Miami, the hot shot Miami Dolphins. Not going to be easy at all. We ended up losing 24-17 in the end, but we finally got to. Our rookie corner, Christian Gonzalez, had a very big task on his hands: try and shut down Tyreek Hill, and he did. He limited him, I think, to 2 catches, and he got an interception off him. So when we finally got to see what our first round pick was like, and the only reason why Christian Gonzalez fell to us in the draft because there was a lot more other key positional players that actually went beforehand. And also, when it comes to our pick, we traded down for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go up into our position. So they took the tackle that the Jets was going to get them. On the flip side to that, however, Washington, they had an opportunity to take Gonzalez. They took Forbes, and he's been terrible for them. But Gonzalez only played 4 games for us. Injured his shoulder and out for the rest of the season, definitely. Could that have helped us in the secondary? Possibly. But there's only so much. As I said, look, there's only so much the defense could have done for us. We lost Christian Gonzalez to a season-ending injury. We lose our only pass rusher, Matt Judon, to a season-ending injury. And we were still ranked in the top 8 on the defense alone. That's got to mean something. Excuse me. Moving into next season, surely.
The players that came in really did do a good job. The likes of Sean Wade came in. I thought he played really well for, a guy who wasn't used to playing that regularly. And he went up against some good wide receivers, and he did all right. So I mean, the Miami game was another one. Again, we weren't cast out. We weren't absolutely battered and blown away. It was a 1-score game, and I don't actually remember a moment where I thought we should have done better. But essentially, again, it was like the Eagles game the week before. It was a good performance. We were just playing a team significantly better than us, and it was just do what you can to make the game respectable. And again, the start of the Eagles and Miami was a tough start, but again, I came away thinking, if we keep playing like that, we will do okay. So
yeah, we will do. And then it kind of just, as you said, it went wrong from there. Sorry, I'm just texting Luke. He's just turned around and said that he will now come on. He said his words were, "Sorry, lads, I took my painkillers about 8 and fell asleep. What up, Egypt? I am." Luke, the links in our group chat, mate. So jump on and we'll bring you in, mate. We'll bring you in. So yeah, right, okay, right, that's. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
as I said, we are not a well-oiled machine.
No, we beat the Jets. We beat the Jets the following week, which you would expect to beat the Jets. They'd lost Rodgers by that point. It was the next 2 games.
Yeah, we beat the Jets. You did. Would you want a fucking cookie?
It was Dallas. No, but it was that 2-week run of Dallas the Dallas and the Saints that was just
right. The Dallas game,
life out of the season.
The Dallas game, I was annoyed about the loss, but I knew how good this team was. But the way they dismantled us was just shocking, and Mac Jones was just as shocking. But the game that pissed me off out of everything, which the minute I knew we was in hell, was that shutout loss to the Saints. That was the game which I turned around and said, this ain't going to go well for us this season. Because we basically turned around and said that after the Cowboys, that Saints game should have been the game that we turn our season around and then start winning games. And it just never happened. It never happened. It never progressed. While in a minute of unprogressing, Luke has just joined us now. Luke, good to see you, mate.
How are you getting on, lads? Sorry about that. Oh my
No problem
goodness.
at all. No problem
But it's
at all,
not the
mate.
first time and it won't be the last time.
It's cool. It's cool. Just touching base, obviously, post-mortem of our season. We started off from scratch. We've just gotten into the games. Whereabouts do you think this season was about to, where the wheels were just about to fall off? Because I basically said that after you got shut out by the Saints, that's when I knew this team was, oh crap, this is not going to go well for us this season.
I think specifically when it kind of came to this season, I have to agree with you really. Like I think the Saints game was kind of the real kind of kick in the teeth really to kind of go, this is going badly. Like this really isn't going to go well for us, because that was kind of seen as one of the winnable games and we just didn't turn up. But it was a combination of not turning up and also there just didn't seem to be any chance of winning that game. And the Saints were a bang average team. I think from a kind of overall perspective, though, I think Mac Jones' start of his second season, I kind of felt like he just, we were never really going to be good with him at the helm. And I know I'd been banging on that drum for quite a while, but I just felt like until he was replaced, we would just be kind of spinning our wheels, and it didn't really matter what we did. We would, you might sneak into a playoff game at the top end of your expectations. That's not what the Patriots are about. We're about winning playoff games. We're about winning Super Bowls. So yeah.
No, too true, mate. It just gets worse than that, man. Then we have to go to the Raiders once again. Josh McDaniels gets another win over Belichick. That was a tedious game to watch again. And let's be real, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't exactly pulling any trees, but even he looked efficient more than Mac Jones did. And that's saying something. When you know that you've had a worse game than Jimmy Garoppolo, that's when you know you really are in massive, massive trouble. And then, of all the wins, we're going to beat Buffalo.
Yeah.
We're going to beat Buffalo. And I'm like, how have we managed to do that?
That was one of the strangest results I think we've ever had, win or lose, ever really, because the team we couldn't beat with the team that couldn't beat anybody, and that was the one that we chose to. We decided to show up that game, and do you know what? Sorry, that's not fair. I think the players showed up, I would say, most of the year. I think for most of the games they played hard, they played tough.
Most of the players showed up.
Most of the players, yeah, I agree there, Nick. It wasn't all of them, but I think the general consensus of the team, bar a few individuals, is that they showed up and they did what with their talent is what they could do, which wasn't a lot. But yeah, Karl, I think that's going to be a game that we reference for years. I think years and years.
When we get Buffalo fans, I will just say, "Oh yeah, but we did beat you last year." that's
you
lost
to us. Like
it is. Yeah, as I said, it's basically polishing a turd. It's still a turd at the end of the day. You're not going to make it ain't going to get it any better. And it didn't get better from that minute forward, because then after that, we had to go on the road to Miami. Never, ever do well against Miami on the road. Battered 31-17. Tyreek Hill had his absolute way with our secondary. This is where we needed Christian Gonzalez again for that particular game. That didn't go down well. And then we had, you could really say, 3 games in 3 straight concessions, obviously where we had a bye in between the Colts and the Giants game for obvious reasons, we go and lose 2017 to the Washington Redskins. I said Redskins, not what you think.
I don't know how we lost that game.
I don't know how we lost that game.
I do how we lost that game.
Bad quarterback.
Well,
bad quarterback.
Yeah, but okay. All right. I know the reason we lost. I just don't understand the fact that we lost that game. You know, I'd have bet money that way. In fact, I probably did bet a $5 the other way, and I lost it. So I made a couple of quid on the Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, that run of Washington and the Colts and the Giants, that was just like, that was depressing, as it, you know. And we went to Germany.
Met up for the very, very first time. It was great seeing everybody there, but the game in question was just. We said this when we did the frustration in Frankfurt episode when we come back, and that was when you watch it on TV, you can only see a proportion of the actual field and how it runs, and you only get to see the routes being run on the replays. When you're sitting in the stands, you can see everything, and you can see everything what happens. And we're looking at it. None of our receivers are getting open. We can't block for the running game. Mac Jones is just standing there like an absolute prick and not releasing the ball out and getting rid of deer in the headlights. I apologize for that, but that wound me up. That really wound me up, that game, because that should have been. And we paid 175 quid to see that dross. I'm not going to get that money back anytime soon.
It was about the experience.
It was a very good match for the bad experience.
To be fair, I don't remember too much of that because I think I had too much to drink that night.
It was a good night. It was a very, very good night.
It was a great time.
So, this is where, now we know the term of phrase, well, things can't get any worse. Hold my beer. Yes, it bloody did. Straight after the bye week, on the road to the Giants. We lose 10 points to 7. The same drivel, the same crap, the same pathetic performance that we saw against the Colts.
And
losing to
Karl,
losing to Gardner Minshew is one thing. Losing to freaking Danny Derps is another thing. The guy's not a good quarterback, and we freaking lost to that dude.
The thing is, though, is that like it wasn't a bad defensive performance. Any of these games,
it was elite.
The defense was fantastic.
It was elite.
It just
that's about our best quarterback, about our best pass rusher. We played like an elite defense.
Mm-hmm.
But all the offense had to do was just they couldn't.
Was it four games we held teams on? No team has ever lost a game where they held
I've got that stat somewhere.
Opponent to 10 points or less, and we did it 3 times or something this year. I think only one team had done it before,
and that was the 49ers, I think.
Yeah, and we did it 3 times this season.
You know, through no fault of the defense were absolutely smashing it out of the park. But it was just I mean, following on from the Giants, we lost to the Chargers as well. That made it a 5-game losing streak, and every single one of those defeats was just sucking the life out of you as you just watched it get worse and worse and worse. And you can't fault half the team for actually busting their butt, and
it was
just had given up.
The offense was doing nothing besides rubbing their. It was shit. It was absolutely pathetic, to say the least. And then, once again, it surely can't get any worse. Yes, hold my beer one more time. 6-0. 6-0 to the Chargers. Now, in a football game, in a soccer game, that would have been an amazing scoreline. Not in the NFL, it's not. No, it is not.
If you're a West Ham fan, it's not.
That was a shocking performance again by the offense. I can't remember when Bailey Zappi came in because I've just lost track of time now. But that was
he was in.
That was diabolical. Oh, but Zappy was in that one. It was
Yeah,
still a diabolical performance.
it was.
It was shocking. And then we move into on the road to the Steelers. I kind of think at this point we were all thinking, right, let's just lose now. Let's get a top.
Yeah.
Let's get a top 3
Here
pick.
we
Let's
go.
go get our quarterback in the future. Let's do it. Done. We're tanking. Let's get out of here.
I'm just looking at my Pittsburgh loss notes.
Win, you mean?
Chargers loss notes.
Chargers
loss notes. That was our 5th defeat in a row. It was the second time we were shut out in the season. First time in franchise history that happened. Our defensive players were frustrated. They looked defeated. And we were at that time ranked number 32 in scoring offense. Exactly.
Oh God. It's making my eyes water. This. We then go and beat the Steelers 21-18. Good performance. Zappy put in a very good performance.
He did. He does what lower tier backups do, and that's be competent 1 out of 3 games. Like there's 1 out of 3 games where you might come across the defense that just can't do. Like the Steelers, we've always had a good record against because the Steelers play their defense. They don't game plan. They're going to sit there. They're going to play their cover 2, and that's what they're going to do, no matter what you do. So I think in that game, a lot of the game plan worked in our favor, or the Steelers' lack of game plan. But I think that kind of showed you as well that like you saw Zappy's ability, right? He can step up in the pocket. Mac Jones was taking his drops, his 3 or his 5-step drops, and he was just sitting there. The ends would get around the tackle and sack. Zappy at least had a bit of pocket mobility where he could move the pocket around and he could step up he was stepping into throws, and you kind of saw as like if we can get that on a more regular basis, you have a backup quarterback on your hands there. You have a backup quarterback. He looked, if you could replicate that performance, he could become a guy that you hold on to in the future. At the moment, if we decided to cut him this year, I wouldn't really be bothered. I think he's well liked. I think he'll probably stick around. I'm fine with that. But yeah, sorry, I went on a Bailey Zappy ramble there.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no, good before. It was good before us. I mean, this is why I had mixed emotions of that game, because I know we needed to lose. It felt good that we won, but I also felt like we needed to lose that game because now we're not in the quarterback positional sweepstakes anymore. Next game up was the Kansas City Chiefs at home. You're not expecting much, although we kept it close for about one half of football. And then it fell apart in the second half. And even though Mahomes didn't have a lot of talented weapons like he used to have, they still put 27 points on us. I mean, not a lot you can really do and say about that when they're the Super Bowl champions. You just got to take your hat off to them and go, yeah, you beat us fair and square. We're just shockingly bad. And then Christmas Eve, we go and beat Denver. And I think actually they one of probably our most entertaining game of all season.
Yep.
Really good game it was. 26-23 we won. Again, it was a Christmas miracle, but it also felt like we're also pulling ourselves away here from the QB sweepstakes here. What are we doing?
I agree with you, but I suppose the players have to go out and try and win the game.
They have to, yeah.
But I get you. At an overall level, you're kind of going, want to win this game, because while I'm watching it, I kind of said this a few months ago, I think we were chatting about it. Want to win the game in the moment, immediately after the final whistle goes, I'm annoyed we win the game. But it was a good win against an ascending Denver team at that point. They weren't the Denver team of the start of the season. They were the Denver team of the end, where they were picking up wins and they were on a bit of a streak. So that was a good result. Like the Steelers one was, they're not a great team, but they were two middling teams that we put up good results against.
Down that Denver game, I had us down showing resilience. We had a do or die attitude. We never gave up mentally. These are the. I can't believe I wrote this crap.
Your words,
just
not
looking
ours.
at- I know.
I didn't realize we had Ben Volan on the freaking show.
I'll give you a bit
Still,
of
our offensive line continues to be a problem, apparently. Left guard Mappy and Sidiso at right guard struggled throughout. I'm nailing this. It's like it's like I knew what I was talking about. Depressing, but it's.
Moving on to the last two games, lost on the road to Buffalo, 27-21. We put up a good fight against Buffalo. We gave them a good go, but they just had a little bit too much for us at the end. And rewind back, I think it was like a month or so ago, a month to 6 weeks ago, prior to the final game of the season. I said this to you, Nick, didn't I? I said, could losing to the Jets at home be the final nail in Bill Belichick's coffin?
Nobody wants to lose to the Jets at home. I said
no one wants to lose to the Jets. And you said no one,
Jets.
but guess what? We did. It was a shocking game. It was in the bloody snow, but that should be our domain. We're used to snowy games. And it ended up being lost by a Breece Hall walking runoff touchdown. Sorry if I'm using a baseball term here, but that's how it is. It's a walk-off. It's a walk-off touchdown. And I think that after that game was I knew for a fact that Belichick wasn't going to be staying on. If he did, I would be surprised.
I think one thing that was quite telling later on later in the season, kind of halfway through, if Belichick, all the rumors had, the rumors had started. Is he going to be kept on? Is he not? If he was going to be kept on, now this is also hindsight 2020 for me as well. Robert Kraft would have come out at some point and said, "He's our coach. Stop talking this rubbish," because he's done things like that in the past, where he's come out and he said, "No, stop this now. Focus on the football. I'm guaranteeing you X, Y, and Z." Whereas he didn't come out and say he's sticking around, or he's going to be our coach next year, or even immediately after the last game of the season, there was no kind of like statement. Yep, we're going again next year with Bill. And I think you're right. I think if there was any decision to be made at that point, the Jets game, I think, really put the nail in the coffin, like you said. I mean,
even before the Jets game, that Tom Curran report of the fact that the decision had been made after Germany to get rid of Bill at the end of the season, that was already out there. And, Tom Curran was like, I've heard from sources that I trust. It's not Joe Blogs on the street. These are people that I trust, that I've heard that the decision was made to part ways with Bill after Germany. You know, it's like that Jets game. Mac was third choice QB behind Rourke. It was almost like it was Bill's final screw you to Mac. I remember because Bill had his face covered up, didn't he? He wore that he wore that balaclava, and it was almost like, I'm not going to let the media take a picture of me on the fine. It was just like he was doing anything and everything just to be Mr. sort of grouchy and
and I think no, I think you're right. I think how poor the performance in Germany was, I have to think that that was the catalyst for a decision that probably needed to be made. And again, it's not from a coaching point of view, it's from a GM point of view. I think coaching and his game planning game to game are still at a pretty high level. Is he the best coach in the NFL right now? Possibly not. But is he still, a great game planning coach and one of the best and a good teacher of the game? Yes, absolutely. But the problem is that Bill brings all the other stuff, which is control of personnel, the style of defense and offense that you play. And at the end of the day, that, that kind of died off. That kind of style died off in 2017, 2018, once kind of Mahomes came into the league and you had, the mobile quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson as well, and quarterbacks that could move as well. And he just showed it became, with the rule changes as well, it became less important now. You see what Kansas City's defense did in the Super Bowl and how spectacularly they played. But, it became less about defense and more about offense, and I just feel like he just never adapted to that. And that was his downfall.
I think as the game changed, really, Bill's position should have changed back to a coordinator role. I think as Bill aged and the NFL changed, he was no longer the style that he had was no longer suited to a head coach. He was more suited back in that DC role.
Yeah.
And you could trust him with the defense and he'd absolutely smash it out the park.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be kind of like what Mayo is probably doing now is still the head coach, but will look after the defense, and I'll get an OC in, and he'll just look after the offense, and I'll have
we'll look into the new guys that have come in. Obviously, we spoke about Jared Mayo. That's been 100% confirmed. He is the head coach, and I think it was kind of written, set in stone because of the off season last year. Apparently, he was the assistant coach to Bill Belichick, and apparently he was one being groomed to take over. So you put 2 and 2 together, you're coming up with 4. I just kind of think if it was Belichick's last season, it had to be an absolute disaster, and it was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Look,
just one thing as well.
A lot of people. Sorry, Luke. A lot of people are still very skeptical with Jared Mayo coming in because he's a first-time rookie head coach, and the only thing he's learned from is off Belichick. Well, if he's learned off the defensive side of the ball, Belichick, then we're in safe hands. That's what you mean. But people are also forgetting. People will turn around and say, if you get a rookie coach in, there's no guarantee that we're going to go straight from 4-13 to go up to 12-5 and end up making the playoffs. There's no guarantee of that. But if you get the right head coach in and the right quarterback in at the exact same time, I'm looking at the Houston Texans blueprint. Look what they managed to achieve this season. And okay, they won one playoff game, which was fantastic. They exceeded expectations. They were all expected to be 6, maybe 7 wins, if that, with that team. And the narrative was going around that no Ohio State quarterback has ever done well in the NFL. CJ Stroud bucked the trend, and not only did he buck the trend, he set it on fire because he was outstanding this season. And I think this is where now Jared Mayo has got the craft has got to get the personnel 100% spot on. They have to get it spot on. And for what I've seen so far, I said DeMarcus Covington was going to be DC. He was linebackers coach. He did a very good job.
D-line.
I'm glad he's DC coordinator. Jared Mayo, I kind of understood. Mike Vrabel, I think, would have made us a bit more stagnant, if we're going to be very honest with you. Did I want Ben Johnson? Yes. But apparently we didn't go with. We never went in for him, which is
it was Mayo, and it was always Mayo.
Yeah. I
He
kind of
had it in
agree.
his contract anyway, so
Yeah,
you know.
and that was cleared with the league as well, because they apparently, if you have a succession plan in place before that was, because that was the weird thing about how, it's like, don't we have to interview people? And it was like, well, there's this rule that if you have a succession plan in place and that's made known to the league in advance, then you don't have to go through the interview process. So it was, with that in mind, it just kind of qualifies the fact that this succession plan was in place, and it's not just lip service to say, to throw weight behind Mayo and
you know, for all the crap, for all the shit that Belichick's getting at the moment, I tell you what, not one Patriot player, past or present, would go and do to Belichick what Kelsey did to Reed on Sunday. I thought that was disgusting. If you went and did that to Belichick on the sideline, he would beat your ass like a Cherokee.
He'll give you the Malcolm Butler treatment. You sit on the bench, you stay there. He would do that.
You're the best player on the team. You'd sit there. How I said on Twitter at the time, I think that's disgusting, and how he got away with that. And for Reed to come out yesterday and say, "Oh, it's okay." No, it's not. That has no place.
It's okay because they won.
It's okay because they won, yeah. But I think
there might be a different story if they lost. That might be a bigger deal if they had lost.
That would be all you hear in the tabloids, not how good 49ers won the Super Bowl or all about the collision. But it is what it is.
That Chiefs offense in particular were losing. Not only were they losing on the field, but they were losing the mental game in the first half. Like, they were getting very chippy at everything, and Kelsey was the biggest culprit.
I just couldn't believe for all Bill's faults, he knew how to manage a team. He knew how to manage a roster. He could control, if he couldn't control you, he shipped you out, but he controlled play. I mean, even to this day, you talk about Malcolm Butler. Nobody knows why Butler was benched.
We will find out. I'll guarantee this right now. I'll guarantee this. No, hang on. Stop right there, Luke. I will say right now, what's coming out later on this week on Apple TV? The Dynasty. We will find out. Yeah. We will find out why Malcolm Butler got sacked down.
That Dynasty is based on the book by Jeff Hendrick that I've read. I read that book. It's not in the book. It's not in the book why he was benched. So if the series is based on the book, which I'm led to believe it is, it probably won't be in because it's not in the book.
I
don't
Jeff
know.
Hendrick is also playing for Sheffield Wednesday as well. Nick, just as.
All right, sorry.
Okay,
it's only because it was Jeff Hendrick I had to say it. If you said somebody else, I'd be like, fine.
Okay, we've come off the rails a little bit here. Let's get back. So, obviously we've got our coordinators in place. Our OC was a bit of a surprise because I didn't know a lot about this guy. Alex Van Pelt. So let me just give you a debrief of him. He has been mostly, for what I'm gathering on his list here from Wikipedia here, quarterbacks coach. He was also a running backs coach, and he was also an OC as well. So we'll just give you his time. So I found this interesting because I didn't notice this. He was a coach as well in the European Football League.
Yep.
Can anybody guess?
Galaxy.
Well done, Luke. Spot on. 2005 QB coach. From 2006 to 2007, he was the offensive quality control coach. He was then promoted to quarterbacks coach in 2008, and then promoted to offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in 2009. He then went to Tampa Bay in 2010 to be a QB coach. Green Bay in 2012 to 2013. He was a running backs coach. 2014 to 17, he was the quarterback coach, which means he was under the term of Aaron Rodgers. So at least he knows what to do with the quarterback. Let's put it that way. 2018 to 19, he went to Cincinnati to be quarterbacks coach. And then from 2020 right now to the present day, he was the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach for the Cleveland Browns. Bearing this in mind, Cleveland this season, they had to go through 4 quarterbacks, still managed to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And one of them was Joe Flacco.
And one of them was Joe freaking Flacco. So,
that
you know,
shows you how, like, I mean, that's not really a notch in Van Pelt because Joe Flacco's elite.
Okay, and the other one, which only got released a few days ago, I'm a bit worried about this one. I'm worried, but I'm also excited. Ben McAdoo. He is apparently the assistant. I think it's the assistant OC or the quarterback evaluator. So the good side of it is that he knows how to evaluate quarterbacks. The prime example was when he was with the Giants, he begged the Giants owner to trade up and get Josh Allen. He begged them to get Josh Allen, and they never did. The bad news is he's a poor mustache and a pair of sweatpants away from looking like a sexual predator. He looks dodgy. He just looks dodgy. Come on, Nick. You got. But
your comment, not mine. I'm not. I am going to distance myself from said comment. You know.
But he knows how to evaluate quarterbacks. So, considering we need one, it looks like we got a decent person in there for the job.
I noticed with Van Pelt, we didn't even let him out the building. He had his interview, and we wouldn't let him out the building. We signed him there and then. That says a lot.
If he's getting control over the entire offense, I don't think he's also wanting his running game.
Whisperer, we're going to trade down anyway.
No, but we also have an ex-Patriot coming back to coach us, Dante Hightower, linebackers coach.
I thought you were talking about buzzing.
No, I heard about Woodward, but I was more excited about Hightower.
I'm delighted with Hightower.
Yeah.
Wasn't Wes Welker rumoured to be joining as well at one point?
If you want to be a wide receiver coach, I don't have no issue with Welker coming on board.
He'd need to be OC though, because he's not going to go sideways.
Because he's wide receivers coach at Miami, isn't he? And it was like, can we get him to? They
would have refused as well because of an in-division move. So he'd need to be OC. So that was never going to happen, unless they made him OC, of course. But I'm quite happy with the Van Pelt thing, especially with the experience with Rodgers. Now it's with Rodgers as well. You kind of go, how much coaching does the guy need? But he's kind of been seen as a bit of a QB guru. You know, he was a QB himself as well, albeit not too successful, but he was a QB in the NFL himself. And yeah, he's had that reputation. The only thing I knew about him was that he was a QB guy. I couldn't even tell you he was the Browns OC. I had no idea he was the Browns OC at the time. But if you said his name to me, I'd have been like, oh yeah, he's like one of those kind of QB guru guys. But you're right, Nick, that job, and Karl, the job he did with the Browns this year was phenomenal. It was probably one of the best coaching jobs in the NFL. I know Stefanski got a lot of credit for it, but he was there too, and he was the QB's coach, and he got a song out of no matter who was on the field. He managed to get them playing and you just play to their strengths as well. I think one thing maybe we'll discuss in future shows is that he has his style is very much, now I'm not saying he can't adapt, but his style apparently is very similar to or would suit Drake May rather than, we'll say, Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams. But I think that's probably a discussion for maybe next week or a future show.
The draft talk, we'll talk further down the line, because obviously we haven't even made it to free agency yet. One thing I will say is, though, all I'm constantly seeing on my social media feeds is the amount of mock drafts that people are doing. which is fine. They're entitled to. They are
Yeah,
entitled to.
yeah.
But I have seen some absolute shockers. Prime example: someone traded down from our third pick to the fifth pick. I don't know who was fifth. I think it was the Chargers sitting at number 5. No, it wasn't you. It definitely wasn't you. And trading down for pick from 3rd to 5, and with the 5th overall pick, we took JJ McCarthy. Pro Football Focus mock draft ranked that an F. And F basically indicating you, because I'm not that's just not happening.
He's not a first round. Yeah.
He ain't a first round pick.
I would say there is nothing wrong with trading down. In fact, the wise man would say it's the better move.
Really?
Nick?
Really?
I'm going to shock you here now because I argued with you the last time. But I'm going to slightly clarify my argument. If they think that Jaden Daniels isn't the guy, and obviously if the other two are off the board, I'm all for trading down. 100%.
The quarterback class next season in 2025 is not looking good. It is not looking good.
I agree with you, but I would prefer that we don't hitch our wagon to a guy, we'll say like Mac Jones, where...
Oh, come on. Nah. You can't say Drake Mayer or Jaden Daniels is Mac Jones. That's you're comparing chalk and cheese there. Come on.
No, I suppose my point is that we'll just say a guy that turns out that he just doesn't work out, right? Just one of those guys that doesn't work out, and that they weren't really happy with taking him. They just took him because they needed a quarterback. I would prefer you just like what I'm saying is if they don't like Jaden Daniels, don't take him for the sake of the fact that we need a quarterback, because then you're what you're going to do is you're going to go, right, we have Jaden Daniels. We'll have to let him see out 2 or 3 years before we make a decision. If he performs similar or even better than Mac Jones, that's still not good enough, And again, I'm not saying that's what will happen. I'm just saying if they're taking him because they feel they need to take him rather than they think he's the guy, then don't take him. I would prefer you just go spin the wheels with somebody like Jacoby Brissett and maybe try again next year. And I know the QB class mightn't be good, but Jacoby Brissett might get you the first overall pick. And then try again. And then try. But instead of wasting your asset on a quarterback, you've now got an offensive tackle. You've now got a top wide receiver. I think it's music to your ears here, Nick. I think.
I know I have said this before. We have got far too many holes and far too many needs to not be traded down. We have got we need too much. I get everything that Karl says about the quarterback class being amazing, and that's fine. And you know what? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And I agree that the quarterback class next year is not as good. What I genuinely believe that the only way we are going to improve our situation inside 5 years is by moving down and filling in holes. Just a quick example. I haven't gone through it all in depth, but a quick example could be, for example, the Giants are going to want a receiver. Now, if they don't need a QB because they've got Jones paid up. So if two QBs have gone off the board, for example, then there's a good chance that you might be able to entice the Giants with, well, if you'd like Marvin Harrison Jr. and you want to jump the Cardinals, who are going to take Jr., you better swap with us. That's a possibility. You could get some stock. You only need to go back, 5-6 places, and you don't need to do that in one trade. You could do that in 2 trades and get more and more, and you could still get a Joe Alt or a Olu Fashanu. I think Bowers is going to go to the Chargers, so Atlanta, I think, are hoping that they might even be able to get one of those top 3 QBs at number 8. They may have to come
There's
up
also
a little
another.
bit to get him.
There's also another team if they don't hang on to their quarterback, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. If they don't hang on to Kirk Cousins, who have they got? There's a good chance, and they're sitting at 11, and they will have to give up a heck of a lot. And I will tell you this: you give us at least 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and you give us Justin Jefferson. Then I will accept that down, and I'll accept the trade down. You give us Justin Jefferson and 2 first rounders, and yeah, we'll give you our 3rd overall pick.
And I'm sure they'll absolutely do that.
So.
Yeah, you won't be in there. So I understand people coming from that. If we do trade down, we better have a plan in place. If I end up going down into training camp and it's JJ McCarthy, I'm going to lose my marbles because the guy ain't going to lead us anywhere. He's an upgraded Zach Wilson. He's an upgraded Zach Wilson.
I've got him going to the Seahawks. If that makes you feel any better.
I think
it'll make 49ers fans better, but
different, Nick, is that I think you actively want to trade down, whereas I would say I want the core, and I'm not. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Corrects me here now if I'm wrong. Whereas I want the quarterback, but if the quarterback isn't the guy, I don't want to stay at 3 and pick Marvin Harrison. I would prefer to go trade down, collect a few picks, and still pick at 5 or 6 or something like that.
Don't get me. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. To be honest, I'm kind of like that. Hey, I'd love a QB. I'd love to get a QB that's going to be, brilliant for 20 years. I'd love it, but you can't guarantee that. Nobody knows what's coming. You don't know how good he's going to be. And while he may be one of the best prospects and everything, you don't know how good he's going to be. He could be a bust. And when you are faced with the amount of depth that we need to fill, going down and collecting more stock is, in theory, the most sensible decision.
But let me just query that then. At what point do you take the quarterback? Because if you start building these pieces up, and then you have a veteran, we'll say like a Brissett, for example, right? At what point then do you add the quarterback? Because Brissett, I know I was joking earlier and I said, he might get us the first overall pick. He's realistically, or a guy of similar talent, he's realistically going to put you in with an improved roster, with a few kind of first round pick or 2. You're going to be in the 6 to 7 win category. You're now not really. You're probably sitting around 9 or 10. You're not getting up to if next year you're not getting up to draft a quarterback at number 1 or number 2 overall. It'd be a king's ransom to go up that high. So at what point do you do it? Because otherwise then you're just bringing in some other cast off from a veteran. I mean, if a veteran hits free agency or in a trade, most of the time there's a reason for that, and the reason is that they're not good anymore. Like Aaron Rodgers, doesn't happen all that often unless or Russell Wilson. But Russell Wilson, I think the Seahawks wanted rid of him anyway. So I suppose my question is like, where does the quarterback come from if you're trading down now?
Not every elite quarterback is sat in the first round.
No, that's true.
Tom Brady,
No, but you're going to give me a list of quarterbacks, and there's a very short list of quarterbacks.
No,
that list will span 20 years, not 1 or 2 years.
No, I appreciate that. I think if you build your team, or you build your lines and your stock over, say, I don't know, 3 years, I understand what you say about a king's ransom, and I understand it would be expensive to go and get one. But if you have drafted properly and you have researched and you have got your new left tackle, you've got your new this, you've got your new that, and you've spent 3 years drafting properly and you've filled in all the gaps, you can afford to give up one draft and say, okay, it's going to cost me a king's ransom. It's going to cost me my first round, my second round, my third round. It'll cost me an entire draft of picks to get up to this guy. But he's the only guy we need. We've got everything else.
Yeah. No,
At some point, I agree. At some point, you may have to give up a king's ransom to get to where you need to be to get the guy. But if you've got everything else in place, giving up a king's ransom, if the guy hits, nobody worries about what he cost if he hits. If he fails, look at the 49ers. Look at the 49ers. If Trey Lance had been a success, and I appreciate that he's a bust and whatever else, if he had been a success, no one would have moaned at how much he cost for the Niners to get up there. Even if Mac had gone to the 49ers and Mac had been a success, no one would have said about how much it cost to get. If the guy is a success, nobody's bothered about what it costs. And if you've got the line in front of him to protect him, we said about Mac this year, especially in Germany, the O-line in front of him didn't give him enough time to get through his reads. No one was blocking for him. They didn't have the talent up front to block for him for long enough. So, I understand the concept, but sometimes you've got to look at the big picture.
And my I suppose, and I want to point out here as well, is that I don't think you're wrong. I don't necessarily agree that it's the best thing to do. I just I just want to point that out.
I don't actually know whether there's a right or a wrong answer.
There isn't. There absolutely isn't. But I suppose my point being is that you could, I suppose, you could give up that king's ransom after you've done all that and you've built up a decent team, and then in three years you give up the king's ransom and then he's a bust. And
here's a question for you two. Then
you've got to take 1 point, is what I'm saying, and you're in position now, and you don't have to give up any draft picks to take one now.
Would you take Justin Fields if the Bears could only get more than a third rounder for him?
The most I'd give up for Justin Fields is a second on its own. I know that some people are saying a second and a fourth. I wouldn't give up a second and a fourth. There is
a fantastic tackle at the start of the second round that I want by the name of Patrick Paul. I want him as my second round pick.
If I could give up 2 3s or 2 3s and a 4 for Fields, I would do.
If it's for a third round pick, I would take Fields, because then at least said he has got a legitimate receiver to throw to if we take Marvin Harrison.
Right. My thing about Fields is, right. Sorry, I'm back. My thing about Fields is, can you win a Super Bowl with him? Because if you can't, then
we play for Chicago, so it's very hard to say.
I know, but I suppose you're looking at him in isolation, and I'm not saying that we'll be able to decide that. I'm just kind of saying, like, my view on quarterbacks is and I go back to what the Cleveland Browns did with Baker Mayfield. I think what they did with Baker Mayfield was 110% correct, and it's exactly how I'd run my team. Now, I'm not talking about what they did with Deshaun Watson, right? Forget that. But what they did was they go, we have a good quarterback. He's never going to win us a Super Bowl. But he's good, but he's not that guy. But we have a decent team around him. We have a good team around him. We need to get rid of him and get somebody in that can win, because otherwise you become the Bengals under Andy Dalton. Otherwise, you become the Cowboys with Dak Prescott, and
I
you'd be good enough to get to the playoffs, maybe win a game.
I generally
You
think
never
this,
win.
okay? When Matt Nagy was the head coach of the Chicago Bears, he was trying to make Justin Fields into something that he wasn't.
Mhm.
Whereas when Getsy was put in charge, he basically said to Fields, go out and do what you know how to do best.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he ended up with the most passing yards, the most accurate passing yards, and the most touchdowns to one receiver, which was obviously DJ Moore. He ripped it apart when, you term a phrase, go out and express yourself. That's exactly what Getsy told Justin Fields to do. That holds a little bit more value because at least maybe that's what Alex Van Pelt will see if Justin Fields comes. As you can say, you do what you need to do. We've worked with a static quarterback for like the last 30 odd years, whether it's been Tom Brady or Drew Bledsoe or whoever it is. Go out there, express yourself, do what you need to do. I think this line will be able to hold because I don't think you're right. It's not good enough to hold it to a static QB position anymore. But when somewhere you've got a quarterback that actually scrambles, it might actually open up our receivers a bit more because we're waiting for the receivers to get open as you're sitting in a pocket. Whereas if you're moving around the pocket and in and out and scrambling, you might get a little bit more separation from the route. So it's not the be all and end all. I think Justin Fields is a good QB. I actually said that I provided Trey Lance instead of Mac Jones in the draft, but when I knew they traded up, I thought that ain't going to happen. And then Chicago ended up overtaking us, and they took Fields as like, okay, well, we've got Mac Jones in. We've got the best prolific passer out of that lot, but unfortunately, it led to no avail. One playoff appearance, and it ended in a dud. I think Justin Fields got put into a really shit position. When you go to Chicago, it's where quarterbacks really go to die. There, you name me a really high-class quarterback for Chicago. The silence says it all. So, Rex Grossman, fucking hell. You could blow down a straw house and he will still overthrow his freaking receiver by 20 yards. Right. Anyway.
Did something Mac Jones couldn't do, and that was get to a Super Bowl.
That's very true. Yes, but that was all on the defense. Come on. That was Buddy Ryan's force 46 defense that freaking ran that into the ground. Come on, let's be real here. Right. I think it's the end of our show, guys. We're going to get on out of here. One word to describe how this season went. Nick?
Down the toilet.
I said one word.
Shite.
Okay. Luke?
Expected.
I'm just going to say dreadful. To put it in the politest of ways. That's the end of our show, guys. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Thanks to Nick and thanks to Luke again, as always, for coming on. Much, much appreciated. Please make sure you smash the like button, you hit the subscribe button, you tell all your friends, follow us on our social media platforms, and make sure you hit the notification bell on your way out as well, so you know when we are going live next. Not sure when our next show will be. Maybe next week we'll talk a little bit more about free agency and what we could do. But keep you posted on something, okay? As you know, we all went to Germany for the Patriots Colts game, and we did some video footage. Well, I did mostly video footage, but so did Nick and Luke did as well. I don't know if DJ did, but I've asked you for a collection of everything you got, and I will be editing a vlog for when we went to Germany. Don't know how good it will be. It might be good, maybe a little bit shit. We don't know. So just keep posted on that, and hopefully I'll have that ready before draft night, which will be like 26th of April. So you've got 2.5 months to get it done. So, trying to manage two. Okay, thank you very much. But that's all. We'll be back next week. It's the end of a dreadful season, but we have new coaches, new lease of life, no expectations. It's a new dawn and a new era for the New England Patriots. Peace out and good night.